Welcome to a spot interview of NeverEndingPanel.com. We are here shooting live from the Pasadena Hilton at WesterCon 63, and we have a special guest, Dr. Laura Brodian Freas.
A woman who truly reminds me just how much of a cultural barbarian I am.
She's a classical musical radio host and illustrator, among other things, costumer, Regency coordinator. The list that she went over prior to even turning on the camera blew us away.
I like clothes, I like music. And she's like, oh, and I've done this, and 20 years of that, and 2 terms of the president of this, and 2 terms of the president of that, and on this classical music station, and this. I'm like, oh. Man.
Anyways, why don't we let Dr. Laura Brodian Freas tell us about what's going on, what you're doing in your life, what inspires you? Go where you want to go with it.
Well, apparently from this introduction, I'm obviously a person who doesn't let any grass grow under my feet, as it were. Currently, I'm an arts reporter for radio station KUSC in Los Angeles, which is the most listened to classical music radio station in all of North America.
I can attest to being one of those listeners.
My father loves the station.
I hope you're a member, too.
I will be now.
And I'll thank you very much for your support.
You're very welcome.
Luckily, as stated before, I am a barbarian.
Well, as you know, classical music is the best antidote to road rage in the world. You know, you'll be trucking down the highway and, somebody cuts you off. What do you typically do? But if you're listening to classical music, somebody cuts you off, you say, I have to slow down and listen to the end of the phrase. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Or have some kids in the car, and then that's also a good...
It keeps my kitty cats calm when I'm at the house. Yeah, they listen to opera, by the way.
Your kitty cats listen to opera?
Yeah, they do. I got a radio in the bedroom, and when the opera's on, you can't find the cats in the rest of the house. They're curled up in the bed listening to opera. I don't know. There's something about the trained voice that I seem to like.
So you said that you've been in music and in the radio industry for like around 32 years. In what capacity have you been working with?
Yeah, it all started back at Indiana University. I was finishing up my doctorate in music education. There was an NPR-affiliated station on campus in Bloomington, and I was quite offended as a music major at the rather shoddy presentation of the material I thought was not sufficient, and complained to the station, and they pointed out that, cut these comp lit majors a slack, because correctly pronouncing the names of composers, conductors, and performers in 15 languages is really hard. Well, they're household names for music majors. How hard could it be? So he essentially challenged me with a put your money where your mouth is, read this paper with all these names on it. And I said, fine. I came in, I read it, went, holy bleep, would you like a job? And that's how it started. From there, I went to KQED in San Francisco, came down south to KUSC, worked for almost 20 years with K Mozart, KCSN, now I'm back with KUSC.
And in addition to doing this, you're an illustrator of some renown. I understand you've also won the Chelsea Award.
Yeah, it's actually Chesley.
Chesley, see? I got
yeah,
that wrong.
It's
Forgive my startling ignorance. What is the Chesley Award?
The Chesley Award is named after illustrator Chesley Bonestell, one of the early illustrators of science fiction, and it's awarded by the Association of Science Fiction and Fantasy Artists. And Kelly had won 2 of them on his own, and then he and I jointly won one in 1990 for a cover that we did for Marion Zimmer Bradley's Fantasy magazine, and we took Best Cover of the Year.
Not bad. Of course, you're referring to Frank Kelly
Yes,
Freas,
the legendary Frank
legendary...
Kelly Freas, to whom I was happily married for 16 and a half years.
We say in Jewish, Kanai Nahara.
Kinahara, yeah.
And I understand also among your many talents, you are into costuming. Is this correct?
Yes, quite so. Quite so. As I discovered science fiction and the joy of costuming, I started making my own historical clothing because that was the only way you could get it. But I also really liked things that I saw on television. So back in Portland one year, I made what I thought was going to be a great hall costume. It was Wilma Deering from the original Buck Rogers, the formal dress uniform. I love that costume.
The big white jumpsuit one?
No, it's the one with the white pleated pants and the dark jacket with the double buttons.
Oh yeah,
and the
looks
red
like she's
sash and the gloves. Oh,
looks like she's an officer on an airship.
Oh, it's so cool. Yeah, and I love that costume. And I thought if I braided my hair back, I almost looked like her a little bit. In fact, somebody came over to me and said, what? And she said, I was coming over for an autograph. I thought you were Aaron Gray. Anyway, so I, know the rules. And I'm walking around this hall costume, and somebody says, "You going to wear that in the masquerade?" I said, "No, it's only a hall costume. It's recreation." They said, "Oh, haven't you heard they changed the rules this year? Recreation is a valid category." I went, "I'll be right back. I know the rules. Don't be seen all day in your costume, because when you go across the stage,
You want everyone to
the
go,
judges are going to say, 'I've seen that before.'" So I
Right.
jumped upstairs, got in my civvies, and then made my presentation, and by George, I won.
Mazel tov.
On your first made
First
costume?
shot, yeah. I was immediately
Nice.
catapulted from novice to journeyman. One
problem
win
is
at
after
a,
that, people expect
at
you
a
to do it-
major, as a WesterCon, as a
Yeah.
major, I got
Problem is, after that,
catapulted.
people expect you to do it again.
Yeah, oh, indeed they did. So
No grace period for you.
Yeah, so I made all of my English Regency costumes, and I made some Victorian costumes, and I love the recreation costumes. It's just like perpetual Halloween. It's just so much fun,
And tell us a little bit about I know you're very involved in Regency dance as well, correct?
Yeah.
Well, explain Regency dance to our viewers who don't know what Regency dance is, and then sort of let us know. a little bit
Regency
about it.
dancing is essentially ballroom dancing of English aristocracy around the year of 1800, roughly the time period of Jane Austen, of Pride and Prejudice and such. And structured into these dances are some of the social practices and mores and postures of people at the time. So it's kind of like a time travel experience. It's a lot of fun. And I had been coming to science fiction conventions where we did Regency dancing, where I learned to do it. The one time at a convention, they wanted a second night, and they could get a room, but they couldn't get anybody to teach it. They said, if you can get someone to teach it, you can do it. Somebody said, "You teach it." I said, "Are you kidding? I've only done this about 12 times." I said, "Well, you've done it more than we have." And I got thrust into teaching right away. So living in the Bay Area, people were complaining the only time that they ever got to do Regency dancing was when they happened to go to a convention, because people in the Southland, in L.A., were dancing once a month regularly. And they were complaining about it. And I said, "Well, I'll do something about this." So I founded the Bay Area English Regency Society, in which not only were we dancing once a month, we were dancing twice a month, because I was giving dance classes in the city, in San Francisco, and then down the peninsula. In my first year, I put on 7 formal dress balls. And then after a while, the people in the South were complaining. They said, "They're doing it twice a month. We only get to do it once a month." That's how I got started. And then 25 years later, I'm happy to say, Bayers, Bay Area English Regency Society, is full and strong and coming up with really wonderful ideas, and they're having a great time up there.
Well, Dr. Laura Brodian Freas, thank you so much for being with us. We've had quite a few guests on our panel. I don't think we've had anybody so varied and so good in so many different disciplines as you, and it'll be a real treat to have our fans be introduced to you who don't already know you. Thank you for coming on our show.
Oh, it's been my great pleasure. What a great time. I had a lot of fun.
Never been so happy feeling barbaric.
Wonderful. Thank you.